What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Beast Motorsport YouTube channel. So today we're going to kind of talk about what you should bring to your first track day. So you're ready to do your first track day, you're really excited, you're going to be driving your car, to the track, for example, and then doing your track day, and then hopefully driving home if nothing bad happens. Fingers crossed. Most of the time it doesn't, but sometimes it does. But let's assume that nothing bad happens and you're driving there and you're driving home. So what should you bring? What should you bring to your first track day? I didn't really know these things when I first started until I started doing it. And then I learned after a couple track days, like, hey, I should probably bring this, I should probably bring that. So today we're just gonna go over a few really basic things that I think you should probably bring to one of your first track days, or even if it's your second or third track day, this might kind of help you, and you might pack some of these things along the next time you go to the track. How do you know when track events are? How do you even know who to call or who to contact unless you have a buddy that already does it and you can talk to them and they can kind of show you the ropes and tell you what to do? Motorsportreg.com. So I'll put that link down in the description. Go to motorsportreg.com. Sign up for an account. I think all you need is an email. Super easy, there's no cost. And then from there, you can search your local area and you can find all the different track days that are available in your area. Go ahead and just sign up. If you've never done a track day with them before, most of the time they're gonna pick up the phone and they're gonna give you a call. They're gonna ask you what your experience is. If you've never been on track before anywhere and it's legitimately your very first track day, they're usually gonna require you to hire a driving instructor for usually a full day, but at least the first half of your day, you're gonna have to pay to hire one of their driving instructors that's gonna get in your passenger seat, and he's basically gonna take you around the track and he's gonna make sure that you're safe and competent, you're not endangering yourself or other drivers around you. And so usually it's a full day that they require it, and then after that day, what they do is they say, hey, you're good to go. They check you off the list. And then that way, moving forward in the future, you can sign up for any track days that you want, and you do not have to hire another driving instructor unless you want to, of course. But usually after you do that first day with an instructor, you don't have to do it again. Turn 2 out at the Ridge makes it very painless. If you've never been to the track before, you hire an instructor for a full day. Boom, after that, they check you off. But hopefully some of that advice helps you guys, and I'm sure that carries over to other organizations, not just Turn 2 out at the Ridge. Some of this information is just not out there. Like, I didn't know any of this until I started, just kind of started getting into it. There wasn't any information out there about this. So I think that can kind of help people take that first step to signing up for their first track day and actually doing it. We're gonna start with a tire pressure gauge. Extremely important. You need to be able to monitor your tire pressures when you're out at the track. I'll give you a little bit of advice here. This is kind of how I do it. Each tire is different with the optimal pressure that you should run when the tire gets hot to have the most grip. Obviously there's a lot of factors that can go into that, but just on the most basic level, for example, with the weight of my car and my Nanking CRS tires, I try to run these at about 30 PSI hot. So hot is basically you go out on track, you do a 20-minute session, or however long you're out there, it doesn't really matter. When you pull back in and you take a tire pressure, that's considered a hot pressure. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get these CRS up to 30 PSI. So how do you do that? Well, what you do is you set them cold first. So before you go out on your very first session of the day, for example, on these Nankings, I will set the tire pressure at about 23. So if it's a nice warm day, I know that in about 5 to 10 minutes, those pressures are gonna come right up to about 30 and probably even more. So I'd probably set them around like 21 or 22. But let's just say, for example, I set them at 22 PSI, cold. I haven't been out on the track whatsoever. I go out, I do 15 minutes on the track, I pull right back in, I get right out of the car, I check my pressure, and let's say the pressure on the front is 32, and I'm trying to run them at 30 hot. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bleed 2 PSI out of that tire to get it down to 30. Same thing, I'm gonna go around to each corner of the car, I'm gonna check the tire pressures on each wheel, and I'm gonna bleed however many PSI I need to get down to my hot pressure. So basically that way, let's say you take like an hour break in between sessions, the next time you go out on track, hopefully you're gonna be right in that 30 PSI range, hot, and so the tire is going to perform optimally. So that's kind of an easy way that I manage my tire pressures and I get them to the hot range that I'm going for, is you just kind of monitor them all throughout the day. You know, you might have to continue bleeding air out of the tires throughout your track day. You might even need to add air, depending, you know, if it starts pouring down rain in the middle of the day, you may need to add some PSI to your tires to try to get them back up to that hot optimal range. So after every single session, for sure, I hop out of the car as quick as I can. So I do my cool down as quick as I can, you know, cool the car down, don't take a ton of time to get back into the pits. Come right back in, grab the tire pressure gauge, check all the pressures. I usually have to bleed, you know, like half a PSI or 1 PSI out of the tires. But then, you know, after the first half of the day, a lot of times I'll hop out and I'll test the pressures and they're right where I want them. And for me, that's 30 PSI on the CRS with the weight of my car. I have no idea what that's going to be on your car. It's also something you kind of have to experiment with. So, you know, kind of mess around with the pressures and try to figure out where your tire performs best in that hot range. And, you know, that can go pretty far for just performance and consistency with your track driving. Next thing here would be a torque wrench. So you want to be able to torque your wheels throughout the day that you're at the track, especially before you first go out. You want to make sure you torque those wheels. You know, as you do a session or two and things kind of heat up, you will notice you will need to continue torquing your wheels. So you want to have a torque wrench. So bad boy right here, this is my torque wrench. I use this a lot, but I would say, you know, if you're going to be doing some track driving, even if it's your first track day, even if you don't plan on doing a ton of track driving, get yourself a torque wrench. I mean, you need this for everything. Anytime you pull a wheel off of any one of your vehicles, you want to be able to torque it back. For example, I torque my wheels to 120 foot-pounds, but I also have some really beefy studs from MSI, and so that's what they suggest I torque to. But most of the time, it's usually about 100 foot-pounds, 90 to 100 foot-pounds is what you're going to be torquing your wheels to. But, you know, I have just gotten in the habit of I check my torque after every single session. So I let the car cool down, and before I go back out on track, you know, maybe 45 minutes to an hour later, before I go out, I just go ahead and I torque all the wheels. Whichever track organization you are running with, they're going to require you to have a helmet. I've never been with any track organization that actually checks your helmet and makes sure that it's, you know, not expired or whatever it is. So I wouldn't worry about that. I would just make sure that you have a helmet. It's really up to you if you want a closed face helmet or an open face. You see that I've got an open face here. Again, that's just personal preference, but you will definitely need a helmet. They're not going to let you out on track without a helmet. Plus, it looks super cool, you know. Fluids. I would definitely bring some engine oil. So whatever oil you run in your car, I would just make sure that you have some extra just in case, you know, you're out on track and all of a sudden your low oil level light pops up. You know, it'd be really nice for you just to have some oil and add it. So this is an easy thing to bring. I also bring some power steering fluid, mostly because on the E9X M3, when you track these cars, the power steering fluid reservoir tends to kind of boil over. So I just like to have some power steering fluid on me just in case. Last fluid that I'll bring here is some brake fluid. So, you know, just in case for whatever reason, if you check your brake fluid level and it's kind of low, you want to be able to add some brake fluid. So again, these are just some easy fluids just to toss in your car before you go to the track. It's better safe than sorry. You might as well have them, you know, it doesn't take up much space. And you're going to be kicking yourself if you don't have some of these fluids when you need them. The other thing that I like to bring is some glass cleaner. So, you know, you're out on track, you're full send, you're going friggin' fast. Even if it's your first track day, you're going to be feeling like you're going the speed of light. You're going to be smashing a bunch of bugs against your windshield. So it's really nice kind of midday to be able to use some of this glass cleaner, clean your windshield up. Just, you know, helps with visibility. If you have a ton of flies and a ton of crap on your windshield, tire slag, rubber, you know, rubber flying off of people's tires and hitting your windshield can kind of affect visibility. So I always bring some glass cleaner, bring a microfiber towel, kind of clean your windshield up. You can even help your buddies. You can go up to them and kind of clean their windshields, and then maybe they'll give you a tip, you know, usually $5 is customary. No, I'm joking, but it's nice to have. People borrow this from me all the time. So this may seem funny, but zip ties. Bring zip ties to the track. I don't use these a ton, but I'm telling you, people come up to me all the time and they ask me if I have zip ties, and I always do. If you need a zip tie, like a transponder to your car or whatever it is, I mean, I'm telling you, you will end up using zip ties at some point. So buy a pack of zip ties and just toss them in your little storage pack out when you go to the track. Something to note about that is you can just get one of these little storage totes, from the hardware store, and store all your stuff in these totes. So it makes it super easy. You can toss this in the garage and keep all the stuff that we've talked about in here today just in this tote, and then before your track day, just grab it and toss it in your car and go. Super easy. So this one here isn't absolutely necessary, but this is a toolkit that you could pretty much purchase anywhere. I think I got this one on Amazon, but this has, pretty much just a nice array of basic tools that you might need at a track day. It's got screwdrivers, wrenches, sockets, pretty much anything that you could possibly need. And I will say I have used this quite a bit. And then also, people at the track come up to me all the time and they're like, hey man, do you have a 10 millimeter socket or a screwdriver or whatever it is? And I have it. So this is an easy thing that you can just toss in the car as well before you go to the track. And it might help you out. I think this whole kit was maybe $50 or something for all these tools in this nice little case. So, I would suggest getting something like this, and I use it all the time, even if I'm not at the track. I still like to have this compressor. So this is going to allow you to inflate your tires. So think about it, if you're driving to the track, and then I told you that you want to get your tires up to like 30 PSI. So let's say you need to bleed, 10 PSI out of your tire to get it up to 30. Well, then at the end of the day, your tires are still going to be 20 PSI before you drive home. I mean, they're going to be higher than that, but for example, you've taken, so much PSI out of your tires, and then you're basically going to drive home and you're going to go about your business. You got to remember you need to put air back in your tires. And so just having this little compressor is super nice. So, something to kind of think about, maybe a little bit more long-term, get yourself a little compressor. Aren't absolutely necessary, but are nice to have. A floor jack. So, for me, since I trailer my car, it's super easy for me to toss a floor jack in the back of my truck, but it's definitely not necessary. Don't think that you have to have a floor jack to come to a track day. One thing to also keep in mind is there's so many people at the track and so many people doing that same track day as you. All those people are going to have some of these tools. So if for any reason you don't have any of this stuff, it is not required to bring this stuff to do a track day and to have a successful, fun time at the track. Anybody would be happy to loan you any of these tools that you need, especially me. If for some reason you're local and you see me out at the ridge, man, please come up and ask if you need any tools or anything, ask, and I'm happy to lend you any of this stuff. And I would bet that the majority of people have that exact same attitude. The thing that you realize about people at the track is everybody is super nice. At least the majority of people that I've met are just super nice, helpful people. And we're all there just to have an awesome time and drive our cars fast and just have a blast. So it's hard to be in a bad mood when you're out on track, ripping fast cars and enjoying life. So I bet anyone would lend you the stuff that you don't have. Tent. So you see I've got this tent leaning up here in the corner. I do bring this tent to most track days. Again, certainly not required, but it is a nice thing. You'll learn over time. Obviously, if it's raining, you're going to want a tent. And then if it's super hot, it's nice to have a tent. Make sure you strap all four corners. It's not enough just to strap two corners. So you need to strap all four corners down to the ground in some way. Kettlebells over here. So even though I own a gym, that's not what these are for. These are basically to strap my tent. So I take these kettlebells, I put them on all four corners of the feet of the tent, and I take a ratchet strap and I strap the tent down to these. So the reason I tell you guys that is I had an incident. I was out at Spokane and I only strapped two corners of my tent. I left, I went and got some gas, got some lunch, came back, and my tent had caught air, went up in the air, came down and smashed the windshield on my E92 here. So one of the legs came and broke the windshield over on the passenger side, and it's because I didn't strap all four corners of the tent. So super important to do that. I couldn't believe it. I had two corners strapped down super hard, and enough wind caught that thing and it flew up with the kettlebells and smashed my windshield. Thankfully, I didn't have any other damage or anything happen to the car. So if you do bring a tent, for everybody's sake, you know, strap that tent. Worst thing would be is if your tent flew up and hit a friggin' GT3 RS or a, you know, $250,000 car, and then what are you gonna do? So that's it, guys. You know, that's just some advice from me. You know, if you're doing your first track day, or you know, even if it's your second, third, fourth track day, whatever it is, these are just some very basic tools and things that you can bring to kind of help your experience be good. If you guys enjoyed that video, I hope it was helpful. If you have any questions, you know, hit me up down below in the comments, let me know. Just get out there, man. Like, I encourage any of you guys watching this, if you're kind of worried about doing your first track day, or you're not really sure what to do, or if you can do it and you're just a little bit nervous, I mean, just get out there and do it. You'll have a friggin' blast. You'll fall in love with it, I promise. It's not as daunting as it seems to just get out and do it. That's why we have different run groups. You know, you've got different run groups for different speeds and experience of drivers. So if it's your first track day, you know, they're gonna slap you in the slow run group with the least experienced drivers, and you're gonna be fine. People aren't gonna be flying by you and upset that you're in their way. So I encourage all you guys just to get out there and do your first track day. And let me know, once you do your first track day, let me know. I'd love for you to watch this video and then be like, hey man, you motivated me to go to the track. Like, that would be awesome, because I friggin' love it. It's a blast. So good luck out there, guys. Go do it. Beast Motorsport, out.